Okay, this is about sharing my work. I want to present it and have you be the judge for yourself. Some people don't like that. They want me to tell them what I see or what I think, and it's not my job. Okay, your job is to observe, come to your own conclusions, and think for yourself. I don't want people to just believe what I'm saying, but if you just noticed, I put a polarizer lens over my cell phone. It was kind of hard to do. Plus, I got to tell you that it was windy. I was using some like rubber bands to mount my camera or my cell phone to my tripod. It wasn't easy to do because it kept wanting to shift on me. I was using palm fronds to or palmetto tree part of the palm frond to try to keep my camera level, and of course you see it's real windy this particular day. Um, so uh, again, you're going to see some wiggling, some shaking, some moving around because I keep trying to adjust it to keep the camera as level as possible. Um, just for your benefit and my benefit, of course. Um, but you know, the whole purpose of this is not to show the size of the sun. That was not my intention on this. My intention of this was just showing how the light dims as the sun gets farther and farther from us. Other than that, it had nothing else to do with that. Now, my camera also has, or my cell phone also has an exposure setting too, and focus setting. Um, so I do use that to cut back a little bit of the light in this, even though I do have the polarizer on there. And you can see sometimes too, me flick it, try to adjust it, like right there, it went bright and then light. I'm trying to get it to where it's what I see in the sky, and not what my camera's picking up. I'm trying to match what my eyes are actually seeing. Um, Plus, too, you notice when I change the angle of the camera, how that light also changes. And that's due to just the angle of light coming into the camera itself. Now here you can see me trying to get it level again, and I do have this sped up. I do believe like 3 times speed. Otherwise, we'd have to be sitting here all night because this was like 2 hours of video that I did, and I just sped it up. This wasn't time lapse, so you can take it from there. And I also want you to pay attention to the lens flares too, because they're pretty interesting. I've seen some people claim that there's Nibiru, and that's something that you could fake people out. Also, notice the planes that fly through. Some of them are not leaving big long contrails or chemtrails, but some have. And most of these clouds that you see lingering in the sky are from chemtrails. We've been getting hit heavy in Florida here recently with a lot of chemtrailing, which personally myself I don't like, because anytime you talk to somebody, they think you're a nut. Oh, it's just condensation from the heat, being up in the cold air. But come on, as a kid, um, I think I've said this before. My brother and I used to sit out and we used to count planes for something to do. You know, when we were younger, it was kind of hard to. I mean, there was not a lot of games to play, not like the kids today. They got all these little toys and these electronic games where we basically had to go out and make up games ourselves. So I do want to say that the people that think that I'm trying to decipher the size of the sun, does the sun shrink as it goes farther from us? In my view, it does. And I've ordered some batter solar filter film so I could make my own solar filter with batter film. I'm purchasing it on Amazon, and I did read up about it. It's the best film that you can use for doing a solar filter. So I am purchasing it. It's like 44 bucks. I'm not worried about it. This is part of the expenses that you got to pay when you want to be an observer. And when you want to go out and do stuff. Plus, too, I share my observations only because I like to. I love doing observational videos. I enjoy the heck out of myself being out here watching the sun, watching the boats, watching the clouds. Well, some of the clouds, the chemtrail clouds, I definitely do not like. But what I want you to do is pay attention to the two solar or lens flares, the one up at the top and the one at the left underneath the sun. And that's the one I want you to pay attention to most, is the one underneath the sun. The one that's going down toward the land right here. Now, I had this all made up, and then I said, well, you know what? I want to slow down a certain part in here back to regular time without having it sped up. Actually, I think I sped up some of these 10 times, if I'm not mistaken. Hang on one second here. Let me check to make sure, so I'm not giving you false information. Okay, the first part was 5 times the speed. Then it was 10 times the speed. This is 3 times speed. And then this next part, I'm going to go to real time. I didn't put a lot of transitions in here. Sometimes I don't know, they seem to screw me up sometimes. But right here, I'm going to go into regular time, because this is where I want you to look at that lens flare at the bottom left. Now, if you notice, the one at the top is diminishing, and it kind of fades away. The one at the bottom, if you watch it up close, I don't know how big of a screen you got, but if you got a big screen, you can actually start seeing it. The clouds that are in front of the real sun, or the projection of the sun, whichever you prefer. Sometimes I think the sun is a projection coming from outside our realm, but that's just my opinion. But if you watch that lens flare, it's pretty interesting how you can literally see the clouds in it. And of course, there is land there, but watch how it comes out from the land and starts reflecting off the water. Well, it's a lens flare, so it's really not reflecting off the water, but it gives you that the appearance of these clouds going in front of it, which I think is pretty cool. And like I say, I want people to be their own judge of things. Don't take my word for it. That's why you have a brain between your two ears, is so that you can use it to think for yourself and not believe a word I say. Because, whatever I say is just my opinion. Now, you can mock me, you can criticize me over my opinion, that's fine. But you got to also understand where I'm coming from. I do this for my own personal research. I share this because I have a small fan base. I think I got a little over 2,000 subscribers, which is not big. I'm not a big channel, and I don't really want to be a big channel, because this way I can answer most people's comments. I can go back and talk to them. explain my position or, tell them my opinion of it. And I also want to say this. We need to agree to disagree about some of our opinions instead of trashing each other. I mean, all right, if we're going to be a flat earth community and just because somebody holds a different opinion than you, does that mean you got to bash them? I mean, I've been bashed by more um, Christian flat earthers than I have from Globers. I've got some Globers that come on my channel that really enjoy my observations. One gentleman, his name is Swind. He he compliments me all the time, even though he holds a different opinion than I do about the Earth being flat or a globe. Which I think it's great. If you can talk civil with globe people, then you should be able to even talk more civil with flat earthers. But I get attacked because somebody says, well, the Bible says that there's clouds going behind the moon and the sun. Show me where it says that. I asked a guy, I said, because he was judging me in one of my in a comment section. So I went back to him and I said, well, number one, you should read your Bible because it tells you, number one, not to judge other people, right? Especially if you're judging people that are on your side. Why do you want to do that? And then on top of that, when I asked him to show me proof, find scripture where it says that these clouds are going behind the sun and the moon, and maybe I will take another look at it. But anytime that I put, okay, I used a solar filter, and somebody said to me that it was not a true solar filter. Yes, I know it's not a true solar filter, but it is under the category of a solar filter because it is a dark lens filter that cuts a lot of light from the sun when you're filming it. And like I say, light blinds you, okay? And if you don't believe that, stick a flashlight in your eye next time you're in a dark room and see, open your eye wide open and tell me if you ain't blinded by it. So yes, the light can blind you. That's why when I get a horizon that's covered with a lot of clouds and that light is really cut, I can see much further across the water. Also depending on the wind, the angle of the wind coming down, how it affects the water itself, whether tides moving in or whether tides moving out. It all plays a role, and that's a lot of things that people don't take into consideration too. Um, Let me tell you, as a fisherman, I've been out where we had a wind coming out of the east. Tide was coming in. It was a very strong wind. Now this one went back to, I believe, 5 times the speed. But we had a wind that was coming out of the east. The tide was coming in. It was supposed to be high enough for me to make it back to my boat ramp. Well, I cut on the inside. We have an inside route where we cut near land. And when I got up to a certain spot, I hit bottom. Next thing I know, I had to spend the whole night out there because the wind was so strong. It literally blew the water offshore. So where we thought we had a high tide, we didn't. We actually were stuck, like I said, all night long. And it was not a nice night. It was cold. It was wet. It was damp. So yes, the tide can affect, or the wind can affect the tides. All right, I got a little piece coming up here. I want to just show you or let you listen to how heavy the wind was, and give you a little idea of how that was working out for me. Okay, so being that we hold different opinions on certain subjects, I think that people ought to have a little more respect for each other, and don't totally deny their opinion, but just use it as fuel for thought. Like I said, I don't expect anybody to believe what I'm telling them is the actual fact or the truth. Um, because when you get into saying, "Oh, I'm definitely giving you all the truth and everything's perfectly fine and everything's perfectly real," is it really? Should we totally deny something? Like we got concave earthers that are out there, and from my standpoint, being that I know how tides work, the wind works, and everything, there has to be some concavity to the water out there, and there also has to be some bulges out there because the seas and the oceans work as waves. You've got very high waves when you get way offshore on some days, not all days. And then you have some days where you go out and it could be calm inland. You come across a rough area, say a couple miles offshore, and then you get a few more miles offshore, and it could flatten out and be just as calm as what it was inshore. Um, Now, I don't know how many people go out there and actually do boating in the Gulf of Mexico or in large bodies of water. Um, but if you did, you would understand what I'm talking about. You can watch old um, movies or on the History Channel where you got big boats out in the water, and if the seas are really rough, one minute you can see a boat that's not far away, and then the next minute you can't. While you go down in the swell, they might come up above the swell, or they might go down in a swell at the same time you're going down in a swell. So you could be a few hundred yards away from each other, and you won't be able to see each other due to this fact. And this is what I say, that sometimes when we're viewing out there, that it is the farther offshore waves that block out farther distant objects like boats. And of course, what would it make disappear first? The lower portion of the hull. But if you get out on really good days, um, I wanted to bring up something about this. Yeah, this is really, it's tough to do with a cell phone, is videotape this screen, and it looks terrible. But at one point here, you'll see the green line and the green dot. When it's all in the green, that means it's level. Now there's some play in this virtual horizon that you'll see. And I think the reason why this is jumping around the way it is because I've got it on fast forward. I sped this part up. Maybe I shouldn't have. But this next part, I believe I kept it at regular speed. It's not sped up. But also, too, I go to Australia. Hmm. Just my little joke, people. Um, when I had my, dang it, this seemed to come out better um, the first time around. I don't know why all of a sudden it's doing this, but also you notice I believe that I'm a little high. Like I was saying, there's some play in this, so I have to lower my camera. But you can also see how the light propagates to water too. It will make it look like it drops at one end and rises at the other. And that's due to the light propagation, and nothing other than that, as far as I'm concerned, is causing that to happen. Dan's Dimension brings that up, that the light itself can cause some issues or cause what appears to be a curve. But we also got to take into consideration when we see with our eyes, we see in a 360 degrees. So we see in a circle, not, we don't see in a globe, we see in a circle. A plate is round, but it's not a globe. So, if we were standing in the middle of a plate, we would see the outer edge in a circle. So yes, it would have a curve. And if we were standing on a big, huge, flat plane, then you would see a curve at one point. But our eyes really don't give you a curved appearance a lot of times when you're looking out across the ocean. Now, when you got the light that's right in the center of your view, that light can actually make the water directly underneath it look like it rises. Why? Because it actually is water there. There's water way out there. Now, I got this adjusted, I think, more where the actual horizon is. And in that little strip between that green, the top of that green line and the actual visible water is probably hundreds of miles. And you just don't realize it. Why? Because the atmosphere blocks you out from seeing anything past that hard water line, that visible water line. And again, this is just my opinion. So I don't ask anybody to take my word for it and believe me 100%, but I do got to say that I'm out on this water quite often, and when I see a distant light, I head directly to it, and guess what? I wind up going to where that beacon light is. If it, somebody wants to say, well, oh, it's refracted light. Well, I beg to differ with you. If you was to go out and start spending some time on the water, go buy you a boat, go out and start spending some time on the water, and then you'll get a feel for what I say, or you'll have a feel for my opinion, and you might understand a little bit more of what I try to convey. Now, again, I don't never tell anybody to believe me, and I like sharing my work. And people want to argue with me about these three lights that I photograph out here, out in front of Hernando Beach. Well, I'm sorry to say, but the only three lights that I could even possibly get on that southern side where I'm looking at is Bill Watts, Billy Steele, and Cutter's Rock Light. Those are the only ones visible, and if not, then I'm catching stuff that is way farther than what I'm even claiming. So Cutter's Rock is at 11 miles, actually a little over 11 miles from me. And I went out last night and I got some really good footage again. I actually did a 2.5 hour time lapse with the three lights in view, and it come out pretty interesting, and I will be sharing that. But what I also wanted to do was yesterday when I woke up, from the time I woke up to even when I went back out to Bayport yesterday, we were just getting hammered with chemtrails. Now, this particular day, we were getting hit with chemtrails too, but not as bad as yesterday. Yesterday, it was really, really bad. And I've got a shitload. I got tons of chemtrail videos. Now, I hope you have the patience to watch it with me or view it, because I'm going to be putting it out. Now, like I say, it's a lot of footage. I don't know how I'm going to put it out. Maybe I'll put it out in parts and pieces with time on it. I did take a bunch of pictures too, so maybe I can slide them in between some of the video that I did, so you'd have a good idea of the time of day and everything too. But let me tell you, there is a war being waged against us, and people do need to wake up to this. Otherwise, it might be too late. I mean, if you think chemtrails is a conspiracy, man, just go outside one day and just spend your whole day looking up. and watching. You'll see planes fly by that don't put out nothing. You'll see planes fly by that have put out a small contrail, and then you'll see a plane that will put out a shit trail from horizon to horizon. Now, as a child, I never saw that. I never seen it. So, what's changed? Well, raid. You're being sprayed like a bunch of bugs, people. And you better wake up to it because they're continuing it. And unless we, as the people, can unite and join together and stop our governments from doing this, because it's worldwide. It isn't just in America. It is worldwide. So, what I wanted to say too, real quick, was this particular day, because it was rough and windy, I could not get Cutter's Rock in my view. But last night I had no problem because it was an upper wind and not a lower wind. The water was calm, and it was really a great night. All right, thanks. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.